Yes, Frank, now that I've been found not guilty on the majority of the charges against me, I'm going to Disneyland. Nature, a beginner's guide to being a part thereof. As one man was instantly incinerated by the erupting volcano, a fellow standing nearby wagged a disapproving finger at the rampaging lava and said, "He was a friend of mine." Meanwhile, the godfather of neural soul kicked off the band and began to sing, "Get up off of that thing, think and you'll feel better. Get up off of that thing, think and be unfettered." Forgive me, Maceo. Men came up with the mythical concept of dwarfs after realizing that their allegorical notion of giants was going to crush them. The sequential progress of man is exemplified in the structure of his own nervous system. History is not in the past, it's in your pants. Here's definitive science news of the sort few can use. There is no such thing as conclusive proof. The simple love to talk about themselves. That's all they've got. Just because you agree with something doesn't mean it's true or that you understand what you're agreeing to. As an extremely civilized man looked about at certain city activities, he thought, if life were more entertaining, we wouldn't have to have entertainment. Whilst together at the library, browsing through photographic books of the cultures of the world, a father noted to his son, "The less urbanized are a people, the less likely that they will have a word for boredom." And the boy asked, "Why is that?" And the elder replied, "To be honest with you, I'd rather not get into that." Okay, troops, as long as the delineation lamp is lit, define them if you got them. Collective art, the celebration of the crude. Another note regarding the nature of man. Without being singularly blessed, you can't be singularly cursed. Daddy, is that why everyone? Yes, my boy, it is. As they sat talking, both the mechanical engineer and the stockbroker agreed that of utmost importance is always the matter of leverage. And a man passing by, who could use his own mind in matters metaphorically akin to the two aforementioned external professions, mused to himself, leverage. So. Thank you. Meet you right outside of Orlando. Or, no offense, but the rate you people are going, I guess maybe we'll just meet, maybe Pensacola somewhere. I can't hang around there forever. Mental health is a handball game. The ordinary could not survive without a front wall. In this one galaxy is a planet whose inhabitants have a tradition that says each new generation, as it reaches full maturity, forgets all knowledge of the preceding one and replaces it with an imaginary memory thereof. "Hey," said the mayor of a nearby metropolis, "it works for them, it could work for us." And, as is so often the case, local politicos are already behind the times. All right, maybe Valdosta. Don't arrest anybody. The statement of fact. Anger is local, as are all of its targets. The source of all targets is universal. And no one gets mad at the universal. And now the question. Question? What question? And as long as we're in the vicinity, this new electronics description. Religion. Low definition irritation. And now one guy's personal fact sheet. Fact. The simple take life personally. Fact. Life intends them to do so. Fact. No harm done, but no help given. by your friend, life. The mind's minimal requirements to be entertained. It cannot enjoy Punch without Judy, Rem without Stimpy, Romeo sans Juliet, Brahma with no Shiva, Beavis without Butthead, and no Roadrunner without an antagonistic canine counterpart. Daddy, is this why men always? Yes, my boy, it is. Two men met on a road, and one of them said, "Let's be civilized. Let's think and speak in cliches." And the other one replied, "Yes, just like everyone else," and off they went. Mental health is a trip to the Grand Canyon. The ordinary could not survive without hearing an echo when they holler. Shout? Well, proverbial wisdom provided for. Original version. No man is a hero to his butler. Revised explanation. Every man is his own butler. I say, my good man, but would you pass me that I am not your good man? Ah, but indeed you are. Sir, I must insist you that I am indeed not. Are not. The Duke later sent word to certain of his underlings that they could presently remove the targets from their backs, inasmuch as it was still 2 weeks to the opening day of folly season. Some social news you won't find in the register. Anyone who will tell you what kind of person they are aren't the kind of person worth knowing. Making you critical is the way life keeps you mesmerized and mentally in line. Some dialogue from as yet unpublished, unperformed drama from an anonymous hand. We do not receive our genes as a gift, but as a loan. And what unseen force has guided you to make such a pronouncement? Now a revised version of that same verbal interplay. We do not receive our genes as a gift, but as a loan. And who is it there who makes such a claim? It is I, life. Ah. End of excerpt. Now from the New Intelligence edition of Cliff's Notes and Bluff's Bluffs. Some of us enjoy it more than others. To wit, city culture in a shutnell. The crude enjoy the unrefined, the simple rejoice in the vulgar. For those of you of deep-fried lexicographical interest, it might interest you to know that an entire family of adjectives such as rude, crude, vulgar, and uncouth began life as synonyms for the past. Before they're grown, all kids pass about them the information that our main job is to spill food. They mean this both literally and symbolically, and since you don't know the difference, you better watch out. The simple dream of what they might be tomorrow. The more complex dream of tomorrow. Another way by which man keeps in tow, another way by which life keeps man in tow is by having his eyes stayed glued to the affairs of other men. Those behind the time never realize the time. A brief essay regarding the matter of the more conscious and social position. Operationally, the former never know their place. Mental health as consumer banking. The ordinary could not survive without their checkbooks being periodically out of balance. Men of extreme limited vision are always on the lookout to peddle what little they do have. Daddy, is that why so often it seems that? Yes, my boy, that's why. Now from our upper lumbar book of legends. One people say that after that certain disagreeable run-in with God, when he drove them from the original peaceful garden of silent pleasures that once outside they were faced with two unknown roads from which to choose their one path of permanent departure and travel. A later version of this tale says, however, that there being two roads was just an illusion. Another slice from our city dictionary. Art, proof that not all the civilized regret being alive. As they sat snugly on the cold winter's night by the warm family fireplace, the man looked down fondly at the pet hippo at his feet and thought, Harold, you're my hero. And in equitable, friendly return, the pachydermian one thought nothing. See, when you've had extensive theatrical training, you can play two parts. Especially when one requires no intelligence. As a matter of fact, sir, you're very good at that. Disturbingly so. Thank you. One kid went out and sat down in a box midway twixt his house and the wood and thought, if those of ordinary mind take ordinary life too seriously, then how are we to be certain that those trying to be more conscious of mind aren't taking life doubly too seriously? Well, Blinky, if you don't mind, I'd like to pass on that particular question and wager instead $200 on the category French literature. And a viewer immediately faxes, yeah, that reminds me to ask you, if life is not exactly going anywhere, then why should I go with you? Well, by God, Blinky, now we may be getting somewhere. That may be Nebraska itself I see receding in the distance behind us. Man's nervous system as myth. Original consciousness, the Garden of Eden, ordinary thought, having to leave, this kind of stuff. Just what you suspect it is. With an unusual sort of unassuming neural self-assurance, not yet common to creatures of this world, one man looked at the others about him and thought, everybody else, not being me and all, I guess has life hard enough without me criticizing them for it. Maybe not having Stubblefield on drums, we lost the rhythm. Mental health as alcohol imbibling. The ordinary could not survive if the pleasures of drink were not followed by the horrors of hangovers. Civilization offers an abundance of talk, 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 while a lack of talk, talk, talk will result in collective mental stagnation. How life works, a plumber's view. Given funeral oratory of sufficient length, every dead man's life becomes heroic. Another way in which you could ponder the difficulty in definitively describing a condition of consciousness beyond our present verbal-based one is to consider how could be adequately detailed a satyr's return to a new state of virginity. A viewer writes, rather than being concerned over how little conscious man can be, could we not be thankful for just how conscious we normally are? That is one way of looking at it. Philosophically, so waxed one man for the day. If you don't know the word consistency, does consistency matter? As the two sat reading the culture section of the city paper, the father said to the son, an artist who is influenced by anyone is not much of an artist, now would you say? And the boy spat on the page he was holding. Childhood, knowing a secret, but not knowing you do. A viewer says that I should tell the full truth and point out that civilization doesn't actually exist outside the mind of man. Done. Definition and analysis of neural states by way of office supplies. Being upset. White out for awareness. Daddy, why do you think he said being upset rather than anger? I suppose because he's such a gentleman. Turning to his partner, one man said, there is no blame in being opportunistic. This is progress's other name. After it began raining, two particular kids ran outside and started playing mental games. Quoting now, if life wanted to have a nasty little surprise in store for man, what do you think it might be? Dying? And the other one replied, how about being born? And all during this time, their anti-twins were back inside the house trying to bobsled and mountain climb. Thoughts, the ballroom of the mind. Words, man's dancing shoes. All right, a final outlaw definition. This kind of thing. Greased slippers. Now, where is JB when we need him? Mental health as mental health. The ordinary could not survive without them recurringly thinking that they cannot survive. There was once a land with a certain people who had a one-word proper response to anything that could be said. And as they evolved and progressed, they later refined this down to a single silence. Daddy, is it stories like that that keep stuff like this from being the official historian of man? Then there was this whole other world, whereon, whenever they held Father and Son Day, would-be participants could only attend upon achieving merger worthy of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Our humorous morality play for the day. One man kept written records of all of his past important thoughts. And one day he finally looked at them and exclaimed, "What the hell is this?" After some years of observation, one man came to the conclusion that some days the sun shines and some days it don't. He is now working on how to carry around his own son with him. The simple of mind seem always inclined to be cerebrally sensitive. By sensitive, I mean not astute or keen, but, touchy. Stanza 2. An alert man is a wide man. A wide man and a quiet man. If it's true in real life, it's true in metaphor. What else is metaphor for? This kind of stuff defined. Hand-to-hand combat with routine thought. As dreams of the future, so myths begin. As nightmares of history, today, so they end. And yet, one man describes being human as forever hoping for the best while already having it. Who's going to stop me? I'm going to really read one. No, I won't. I guess those who got it, got it. Would anyone care to consider the one that started off that said it was definitive? Science News. to wit, there is no such thing as conclusive proof. Here on this page, conclusive proof is in those little funny marks, quotation marks, which I guess refers to the fact that other people have used that term, which in fact refers to the fact that many people, all the way from hard scientists to social scientists, sometimes known as mushy scientists, at least among the hard scientists, but they seem to have a certain edginess about them anyway. So. All the way from, well, the soft science, from sociologists, psychologists, political observers, all the way from that to the sciences. In fact, the former group probably makes greater use of the term now than anyone. And that is, they'll be discussing something about the matter of their speculation as to what might be driving humanity or certain subgroups of humanity in a certain direction, or what may be driving certain kinds of personalities in a certain way, certain kind of economic trends. And they may talk on for a while until they sense that they're beginning to lose the audience's attention, or the talk show host is beginning to go da-da-da-da-da. And then or run out of statistics. I don't know which is worse. And they may say something to the effect that, well, that is a fair detailing of the present opinion of Western psychology or whatever. And then the man may say, but we're lacking conclusive proof, which again, I've pointed out in other ways. I know it normally gets a giggle from certain people, but that is one of the sure ways throughout history, at the ordinary city level, to try and pass yourself off as being intelligent is to claim stupidity. I know sometimes it sounds better to call it intellectual humility. I mean, that flies. People will get that damn thing off the ground, and other people look up and say, it's a plane, it's a bird. And what is stupidity? I'm just telling you closer to what it is. It sounds like intellectual humility. And them saying, well, our best guess at the current time, based upon the evidence available, based upon the statistics we have, the recent pollings, our best guess is so-and-so, but we're not sure. Now, with ordinary people, that is quite acceptable. There's nothing wrong with it. But remember, that passes off not just as being, we'll assume the man's already got so-called credentials as being intelligent, if not an expert in some field. He's already been introduced, and he's there, and he's made his speech, and it gets to be wrap-up time, and he says, but we're not absolutely positive. That's our best guess at the time, but I certainly am not going to state that as a dogmatic, unconditional fact. That passes right then. It's like that kind of speak where you end at the end with a little happiness, like, but we don't know for sure. I'm not going to say positively. And people think, well, what an intelligent guy. I have an alternative view. What a stupido. I mean, what they bring him on for? I mean, you turn on the TV, you go out to see a lecture, and they say, here he is, at least this country's leading expert in whatever. You know, macro inverted economics, whatever. And you listen to the guy speak, or they ask me a few questions, and maybe they even entertain questions from the audience, and you send up one, the guy reads a question, and go blah, 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 and you wait like I wanted to hear this. And he ends up the whole speech, not just your particular question, but the whole thing saying, of course, I'm just me, and based upon the best evidence available, I just can't say for sure. No. And people go, well, my. They'll look at each other, other intellectuals and other reasonable people with haircuts and jobs, they'll look at each other and go, well, isn't that something? The man admits he doesn't know what he's doing. And everybody goes, well, my. Just in case anybody thinks that life does not have a sense of humor. Well, in case you think intellectuals don't have a sense of humor, which they don't. But the thing is, life has a sense of humor through them, see. If you're a fellow intellectual, you don't know. It's like being at a Punch and Judy show, and they're slapping each other around and talking about statistics, and you think it's funny. But downstairs, it's life going... Back to where we were. It is a continuing phrase. I won't try to give it to you in the original Babylonian, since there was no such language, but conclusive proof. The thing is, they are always talking about it in psychology. Of course, they do talk about it, as I'm sure everyone knows, even in hard science like physics. They keep looking for the one grand unifying theory, etc. But other than that, or beyond that, which is usually of more interest to ordinary people, is the non-hard sciences, just the operations of human life, human behavior, the way people think, the way they apparently feel toward one another and about life. The soft sciences, all religion, psychology, everything, the arts. They are always pointing out, when people try and give their best philosophical insight into what's going on in life, or even try to express some view of their area of expertise, whatever it is, they will end up saying, if asked at all, they'll say, well, we as yet have no conclusive proof in this one area. That's not the problem. That's not even the area. In other words, they say it, and the tacit part being, of course, that we're on the way, or that we should be there, or that it's possible. And it's not possible. The reason I stopped to go through the little joke about sham humility passing off, or stupidity passing off as a form of intellectual, sort of subtle intellectual brilliance by saying, well, I'm not positive, I'm not going to say conclusively. It is the same area that people do not notice. They take the temporary coda to a man's song and dance for the night if he says, well, we do not have conclusive proof in this area. Now, there's nothing wrong, it's not hurting anything, but just note that if you're an ordinary person and you were sitting there doing this tango with the person, with the speaker, you accept that. Well, all right. But not only do you accept it, that he says, we simply do not have conclusive proof as yet in this area. You know, why some men want to beat up on women, or why some women want to beat up on men. Well, that's understandable. Never mind that one. The first one's the one there. The second one, I don't see what the problem is. Sure. Men want to beat up on other men, so. All right. But they will end up their observation, they'll end up their comments as saying, we do not have conclusive proof. The tacit part, the part that is unanalyzed, part that is non-specifically noted, is the inference. Not the inference, the implication. So that you people who graduated from high school don't write me. I didn't know if either graduated from high school could write. But it's all right, I can't read, so there. You will not make me look bad. Well, not any work. Well, the unspoken part is, the implication is that conclusive proof is possible, and all the variations of possible, that it is probable, it is possible, it is necessary, it is expected, it is the goal for which we are striving. And out of the ones I just mentioned, I just made them up on the spot, just came to mind. Curiously enough, none of those apply. Are we talking fortuitousness up the giggy or what? Did I just, well, if too weird? All right. There is no such thing as conclusive proof. Not only is there no such thing as all of the implications, all of the unspoken expectations that there should be, there could be, there must be, it is proper that there be. None of that. None, none, none. Not unless you're going to take conclusive proof, as I have pointed out on you several occasions, unless you're going to take it as being synonymous with suicide, which it is. And if suicide sounds too personal and yucky, termination of interest. How would that be? Cessation of knowable existence. Because if something reaches a point of being conclusively proved, you've only got a split second. If you happen to be there, when, if it happened, that let's say, I don't know what, say some men's hostility toward women, since I brought that one up. If there was conclusive proof as to why, conclusive proof, by conclusive proof, we're talking about not just more theories, but somebody says, all right, we now have conclusive proof, here it is. It's like something they can put in a sentence. Here it is. You better be there when it happens, if you're interested, because when seconds later, no one's going to ever remember it. I don't mean just the proof, they'll forget the problem. They'll forget the original question. It's almost as though it ceased to exist. It will become dust. It will become a dust particle in an obscure history book somewhere, maybe. But humans will have no intellectual interest in it if it reaches a point that apparently conclusive proof has been forthcoming. I just pulled this one out of spite, since most of you didn't seem to get it. So I guess waiting to see if I get any more irritated when I want to read it again. Well, here's a surprise again. I can make them all seem connected, since civilization offers an abundance of talk, talk, talk. And civilization, of course, being the general mouthpiece of, or the general background of anyone who ever says anything with the words in it, we lack conclusive proof. So, in that context, civilization offers an abundance of talk, talk, talk. That's one line. It's a two-liner. It's a two-liner. It's a two-line one-liner. That's the first line. You know, if we left it there, we could make that as being some sort of sophomoric criticism of civilization, of ordinary life, saying, well, that's all civilization is. That's all most people's life is. That's all the world of intellect is. Talk, talk, talk. I mean, I could make that, rather than taking that as philosophy, I assure you, I can walk in all kinds of beer joints down in Mobile and up around the Gulf Coast. I can walk in and I can get all kinds of drunken mechanics and plumbers and drywall men to go, hey, that's right. No, that's all they're doing in the city, you know, the government and artists and all that. Talk, talk, talk. You know, they'd slap me on the back and buy me a beer. Why not? But did we let it rest there? Not hardly. Well, I knew you people wouldn't want to. I knew you would not want to leave me there alone in a cheap beer joint with intellectuals of the like that I just described. Civilization offers an abundance of talk, 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 comma, while a lack of talk, talk, talk will result in, and knowing how senses normally work, you got to expect a negative ending to this. But it sounded negative the first part. Civilization offers an abundance of talk, talk, talk. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Except, if you did not have this abundance of talk, 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 what you would have is, it will result in collective mental stagnation. Collective, not individual, but of trying to, if you were ordinary, and trying to take, or if you were driven, you wouldn't think of it as being a cheap shot, but if you were making some sort of social commentary about the nature of politics, or entertainment, television, movies, anything, if you just looked around, you would realize most people, all they're doing, you know, yammer, 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 talk, talk, talk. You know, this is, you know, church, religion, politics, education. Somebody out making a speech, which gets a little weird. Somebody making a speech, what do they do? Talk, talk, talk. And as always, you're not supposed to, you know, go, what? And they're, from a certain view, they're certainly within, they're as well founded to make such a critical comment as any other. Because that is easy to say, that's just talk, 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 and it's going nowhere. But those of you that's been around here, we've already established that. It is going somewhere, except at the local level. From an individual, ordinary mind, it apparently is going nowhere. Because nobody ever gets to the end of the sentence. But you remember we gave a new one last time, a slightly different definition of the human mind is a wound not intended to heal, or a question not intended to be answered, a question lacking forever conclusive proof. So in that sense, to make a criticism of ordinary existence and the operations of ordinary minds and say, well, all people do is talk, talk, talk. Right, right, right. But the inference again, the implication being again, that's the good thing about CDs, they don't stick like analog records used to. I'm glad we've reached modern times. The implication being that there is an alternative to talk, talk, talk. That is to say, there's an abundance that people just talk, talk, talk. The implication being, well, you talk too much. You know, let's get to the point. What is it? Talk, talk, talk. It's the same thing over and over and over. Well, if you call breathing the same thing over and over and over, if you call the collective existence of humanity the same thing over and over and over, if it were not for, I'm not trying to underplay or overplay, there is a reasonable view that we could even take theoretically for us to point out from an ordinary view, and everybody's got an ordinary level of consciousness that you can think back. It's already there with you. The past is not gone. Remember, the Sumerians are in your pants. Babylon has not totally fallen. I hope. All you got to do is look in your pants, and I hope Babylon is not completely crumbled and is gone. History is not in the past, it's in your pants. It's in your own nervous system. It's why you should be able to understand what I was going to say. To say that to take that kind of, at least theoretical for a second, view that to say talk is a critique. You can understand that because all of you have done it. If not to civilization in general, I just try and widen your scope. You surely know plenty of people, relatives, family, friends, somebody you work with or for, and you think, Jesus, talk. And they just blabber. They don't know what they're talking about. They'll start, let me tell you what I think now about this, what's going on between the two factions and the Kurds and the Turks over there and them fighting over. Let me tell you what I think. And you think, gee, and he starts, you know what it is, you've heard him a million times before. He spent 5 minutes in the bathroom this morning glancing through the Wall Street Journal. He picked up 2 or 3 sentences, and he says, around the coffee machine, he says, I'm going to tell you what. It is not just simply an Islamic / Christian problem in the Middle East. We now have the Kurds. We have the Kurds and Turk. And he goes into something you think, this is talk. And the words almost make sense, but the point I'm trying to get to is a little more refined, that many people listen to other people talk, especially those that may be quite verbose to begin with. I resent that. Watch it. And they go, it's nothing but talk. That is meaningless, vacuous. It's just words. Hey, I know something that's more vacuous than words in a sense. Breathing. If you get up close and somebody got a little congestion in their chest, breathing makes a little noise, a little rattling, and go. That is not that dissimilar to the kind of ordinary, same level critique of one man to another about, talk. They might as well be saying, breathe. Because without that kind of talk, that from one view, it is understandable because you got it and you know what I'm saying, that you can say, Jesus, I'm so tired of hearing people talk and they do not know what they're talking about. Yes and no, but yes, they do not know what they're talking about. But that doesn't matter because the reason they're talking is not to prove what they're talking about. The reason they're talking is to keep civilization breathing. If men quit talking civilization, there would be one more noise. Death rattle. It'd be however it's supposed to go. And that'd be it. Well, again, trying to help everyone before it's Valentine's Day again to get by in life. Well, better than that, to see what it is. Once you understand that, there is absolutely no place, you would have to be a double idiot then, to ever complain about, well, hey, most of what people says is just bullshit. It's just yak. Yes. Boy, you're a boy or girl genius. You mean it only took you 30 years to figure that out? Well, by me, hollering and screaming it 2 or 3 times, you thought, well, I thought maybe I was overdoing it. No, it's all bullshit. And it only took you how long? How old are you? Only 30 years old. Of course, that's nothing. There are plenty of people that would say, well, I discovered that just almost all of human intelligence or civilization. You can find people in high school probably, or at least threatening to go to college at that age going, yeah, you're right, it's all bullshit. So there it is, they're 20 and they got that figured out, okay? Boy, genius. Only took them 20 years. Well, that's bad enough. Now, let's move ahead, run the film forward. Now we find them and they're 60. Now, the age of 20, they decide, hey, all this is just bullshit. Just human civilization and people's beliefs and all the paradigms and theories and economic models and political. It's just talk. 20, they got that figured out. 60, they're still pissed about it. They're still upset about it. As all of you know, I've tried to get you to consider an extended definition of comprehension or understanding, awareness. None of that applies to any subject to which you may have turned your mind if you are still upset thereby. Now, I gave a definition tonight, a new one, an analyzation and definition of the human nervous system by way of office supplies. And the definition was being upset, white out for awareness. It started out, I'll tell you the truth, since I was there when the guy wrote it. It started out, it was anger, white out for awareness. Too simple. I knew you people would want a bigger challenge. I knew that you would want the explanation expanded. The vistas expanded, because if you're going to look in the rearview mirror and you want to see Nebraska decreasing in size in the rearview mirror. See, I try not to be too blatant with you people. Some of you, I've already pulled in dwarfs and little roads. It's a state right next to one that I'm sure most of you go, oh, that. Hey, metaphors are no good unless you get, if you're just going to sit in the car and kind of nod off to sleep like one of those little dogs in the back, what's the sense of me pointing out that in the rearview mirror may be receding, that you may turn around to your pet hippo, Harold, and say, well, this sure ain't Nebraska anymore, is it, Harold? It denies, it belies and denies any even slight connotation to understand, to comprehend anything if you are still upset thereby. I mean, there's no way out once you see it. It's a nice simple test for people. It's a lot more beneficial and something you can carry with you, but it's a lot easier to use than trying to undergo or to pursue the kind of traditional, mystical, would-be transcendental practices of meditation or withdrawing from the world. This is the kind of monastery you can carry around with you. It's to constantly realize, just be aware of how often, I'll say how often instead of how constantly, how often one tends to be a bit pissed in life. Upset. And all you got to realize is anytime you're upset, you don't have to worry about, where's my yogi? Where's my meditation teacher? Where's Pickney St. Clair now that we need a baritone sax player? I give up then. I guess we've run the James Brown allegories and metaphors into the ground tonight. Whatever it is, if you're upset thereby, but upset is why I put instead of anger. For those of you who've already forgotten, it went further than that. The definition and analyzation of certain neural aspects by way of office supplies was being upset, white out for awareness. And then there was a pause. There was a space on the page. And it said, Daddy, why did he say being upset rather than being angry? And he said, well, I suppose it's because he's a gentleman, which is you might say, a kind of good-natured, sardonic dig at moi. At you is who I meant, because you would have laughed at it. You have got a constant source of material. You have got a constant personal practice tradition by realizing how many things, that's why I used upset. You understand that will swallow up more. That will step on more peckers laying around than just saying angry, hostile, even irritated. Being upset. I like it. It's all, maybe not all encompassing, but as we philosophers in Mississippi say, rail encompassing. R-E-L encompassing. Being upset. Because you can say, well, I'm not angry. I'm not really mad about it. I didn't say that. I said being upset. Well, I mean, I'm not mad enough to fight about it, being upset. Well, I'm not real hostile. I didn't say anything to him, being upset. See, because only you know. Being upset is like little tingles running up and down your spine. They may apparently be hormonal based. If you get real good, you can start doing this. Of course, they're all cat based. It's all the cats meowing, but you can think, you can even consider, is it being exposed in my nervous system more at the lower level in Babylonia back in the hormonal, or is it, do I think normally what I've perceived it to be neural? that I feel like, well, wait a minute, this is a theoretical argument I have with that person. That is, you're staying at a cocktail party or somewhere, an elevator, and somebody says, well, here's what I think about so-and-so, and they make some political comment or religious comment, social comment. And your nervous system gets a bit upset. It's to figure, I've already established for it all comes from Babylonia. It all comes from the cats. It's all hormonal basis, no way out. But where is it that you think it is manifesting itself? In other words, do you, put it to you real crudely since I got here off the subject, because some of you I know have already done such as this, but it's kind of a hobby, kind of a side hobby to this kind of secret, non-monasteric, don't write me, mystical traditional practice that you carry around in your pocket. Is the comment, somebody made a comment there at the elevator. You're just staying there and you hear somebody and they start discussing politics or religion or anything. And suddenly you feel like something somebody said is considered. Now at first an ordinary person would go, well, it had to be something theoretical, it had to be something intellectual because it was their words. I heard them say something about, well, boy, if the president does any more like such and such, somebody, they ought to just tar and feather the guy. And if you're ordinary, you can say, well, now I did feel a certain kind of, like this. But it's because I think very highly about the president. I like him personally. Or I feel like we shouldn't insult the office, or et cetera. You can say that. But it could have been you walked in, and your hormones, as soon as you walked in, you recognized a fellow would-be alpha wolf. Or it could be he was staying with a woman that you wanted to screw. I'm speaking from a male view. And you didn't really notice, you didn't think that until you stood there, and suddenly there's this comment about the president. And you didn't even have to turn around because you know who it was. It was that guy that you wanted his woman. But as far as you're concerned, if now I could jump into your nervous system and say, wait a minute, I saw your nervous system get a little porcupines up its, yeah, I did, you're right. Why? Well, I didn't like what you said about the president. May I be permitted to say bullshit? Well, stupido, ordinary consciousness, ordinary awareness, white out. For those of you really good, there was almost another version of that. Sometimes, well, maybe you'll find it of some interest. The original version, they're all like that, but then I decided that it was too obtuse. Abstruse? Weird. It was too far from the downbeat to Maceo being able to take it to the bridge. I was afraid everybody would lose it. The original was thought, white out for consciousness. So based upon some of my own descriptions, which are all, have to be, three-dimensional, it is almost contradictory to what I've said, although since I said it, I could weasel my way out. I could show you otherwise. And also, did anybody catch that at all? It would almost be I could almost take a position. I could say, wait a minute, if you had said, see, I'm playing both parts. If I sing out here and I could say, wait a minute, if you had said, made the definition, thought, ordinary thought, let's say, ordinary thought, colon, white out for consciousness, then I could say, wait a minute, no. The way you put it before, we had to start off with kind of blank consciousness, and so thought was the thing that got it going. You've said such as that, right. That consciousness is just a potential in the nervous system. It's just the brain kind of laying there and being gooey, and maybe a few lightning flashes coming up there every now and then. You're on the verge of being thrown out of the garden. You're on the verge of being Harold the Hippo laying at somebody's feet, creation's feet, and you may be about to get up and say something. Do you know the time? Harold, you can talk. I could have played the part and say, wait a minute, that is in direct contradistinction to what you said before. That thought would not be white out to consciousness. It would be, in fact, the first writing. That would be, consciousness would be blank, and then thought would be the writing, the typing. So it couldn't be the white out. Yes, that's why I didn't do it. But no, that's an early stage. I just thought you might be interested. That was the original. And I had mercy on you. Which, since if Maciel's tired, now we're back to Cannonball. Mercy, mercy. Well, they don't make musical allegories the way they used to. Of course, the way I use them, they never did make them that way, did they? Thank you. All right, but if you like that one, the one that I didn't use, here's what I was getting at, because we're always getting back to the spiral nature of consciousness at this level. We're getting back to a three-dimensional world in which polarized energy is all that's necessary to run it. Was this one. See, I did this one to make up for the fact that I did not have the nerve. I was not cold-blooded enough to give you the original version of ordinary thought, white out for consciousness. So I waited a bit and I did this one. Another way in which you could ponder the difficulty of definitively describing a condition of consciousness beyond our present verbal-based one, which is what we're talking about. Ordinary thought is verbal-based. It is the typing, the writing on blank consciousness, which would have made the original version I told you that I did not put, that is, to wit, ordinary thought, white out for consciousness. Back to this. Another way in which you could ponder the difficulty in definitively describing a condition of consciousness beyond our present verbal-based one is to consider this, : how could be adequately detailed a satyr's return to a new state of virginity? How can I be a virgin again? That's what it amounts to. If I threw you the satyr, everybody remembers a creature, a mythical creature representing unbound lasciviousness. How to describe, how to go back. How can somebody say, well, I think I'll become a virgin again? Now you can say, well, that's some kind of cheap, non sequitur attempt at humor. A merry-go-round cannot take you back to a state of virginity. Consciousness cannot return to blank consciousness. But if it is possible to move in another direction in a three-dimensional world, if a merry-go-round can become a spiral so that you do not continue to relive this same damn life over and over, forgetting childish, crude ideas of karma like, well, I'm afraid after I die I'll come back and live the same life. Are you sleepwalking? Are you absolutely without any awareness? You don't have to die. Figure you're what? If you're 30 years old and there's 365 days in a year, I mean, what is that, 10,000 days? How many times have you re-gone? How many times have you replayed karma? How many times have you been reincarnated? To no avail, no positive avail. You wake up in the morning, forget it's only ordinary people that worry about, well, I'm going to die in 60 years from now or 50 years from now, and if I don't do right, if I don't straighten myself out, I may come back in a position of no great improvement. Give yourself a break. The question is, you lay down, you go to sleep, and you get up every day, and what is it? Is there any improvement? My God, I've come back as me. And it's only been since yesterday. I can't resist. We're still talking about the same thing, but I notice this one just seems to have gotten nothing. We're still talking about Babylonia. The past still exists in your pants. It will not go away. We continue to talk about the past. That is the basis of talk, talk, talk. That is the basis of ordinary men's dreams of the future, is what? The past. They can't get away from it. You can talk about, there was one from a few nights ago, and I've got to drag in now, that I was pointing out a distinction again between the reality behind the words, when I just say thinking and consciousness, is there is another distinction. About one person gasped the other night. The difference is you can think about thinking, but you can't think about consciousness. Well, At least it makes you glad to know that Fred Wesley has his own recording contract. All right, no more. All right. Ordinary people can only dream of what they might be tomorrow, while a more alert person dreams of tomorrow. Now, page 45. After it began raining, two particular kids ran outside after it started raining and began playing mental games. One of them says, if life wanted to have a nasty little surprise in store for man, what do you think it might be? Dying? Another one replied, how about being born? And all during this time, their anti-twins back inside were attempting to bobsled and mountain climb back inside the house. Well, I can't say that I'm sure that helped anyone at all, but remember this, it was at least fulfilling a threat that I said I might reread it, so there. The crude, nothing else, I'll reread these two because it's still the same thing. I didn't get around to talking about them specifically. The heading, page 21, from the New Intelligence's edition of Cliff's Notes and Bluff's Bluffs. City culture in a shutnell. The crude, here's the item that I selected. The crude enjoyed the unrefined, the simple rejoice in the vulgar. And for those of you of a deeper lexicographical interest, you might care to note that there is an entire family of adjectives such as rude, crude, vulgar, and uncouth who began life as synonyms for the past. Page 22. Before they're grown, all kids pass about some knowledge between themselves. You did? Just nobody ever told you. They all pass about this knowledge before they're grown. Now I'm quoting the knowledge. Our main job is to spill food. They mean this both literally and symbolically, as you might guess, to spill food. Would anybody like to? They mean this both literally and symbolically. And since you don't know the difference, that's the OU, you better watch out. That is part of the job of every generation, is to apparently spill and waste food. Talk, talk, talk. Well, come on, straighten up the act and do something meaningful. Part of the job is to spill food. But ordinary people don't know the difference. They don't know the difference between the literal spilling of food and the symbolic. That is the necessary, everyday talk, 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 and any possible exception there too. So if you don't, I was just giving a decent piece of advice. Since you don't know the difference, you ought to watch it. Because you can think, wait a minute, life and other people are throwing up on me. They're spitting up food, intellectual, emotional, cultural, food on me. Yeah, but it may be symbolic. You realize how much money you can waste at dry cleaners that you keep trying to get it out, and there's nothing on you. It was symbolic. Wait until somebody actually splashes mud on you. Don't keep spending money trying to get imaginary spots off of your clothing. And I have a suspicion that everything I just said in the last 30 seconds, I don't know, I'm just guessing, was symbolic. I don't know.